Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen, we're making an amazing candied kumquat flan. So let's get started. First off, you need to gather 1 pound of these amazing kumquats. You can find them in most grocery stores. Grab a sharp knife and slice these 1/8 of an inch thick. These are going to be cooked in some sugar and vanilla and be the most amazing tart, sweet, citrusy finish for this silky flan. And by the way, this recipe is from the winter chapter of my cookbook. If you have a copy, pull it out, open it up to page 153 and bake along with me. Take a break from this right now. Just set those aside. And we're gonna make our syrup because the syrup has to bubble for a while. Grab a medium pan. We're gonna add 2 1/4 cups or 450 grams of granulated sugar for the simple syrup. 2 cups of water and just pour that over. We're gonna put this over medium heat and bring it to a boil. While that's heating up, we'll finish our kumquats. So I just remembered that when I was a teacher back in Los Angeles, kids are obsessed with eating in class, and I was obsessed with kumquats. So my rule was like, if you're gonna eat in class, you could eat kumquats, and that's it. The principal didn't know about this rule. Anyway, so I actually had kids who would go to the grocery store, get kumquats, have them in Ziploc bags, and nibble on them in class. It was a win-win because they got their vitamin C for the day too. Kumquats are all sliced. Once our simple syrups come to a boil, it's time to add our delicious sliced kumquats along with 1 sliced vanilla bean. If you don't have one of these precious vanilla beans, I would just add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract later on once this is done. Grab a wooden spoon and just mix them up a bit so everything is in the syrup. This will cook for about 15 minutes. You'll see that these beautiful slices of kumquat become translucent and really absorb all of that sugar. I'll show you what that looks like though. One more thing, we're not going to use all of this syrup for the flan. You'll have some left over. It keeps for about 3 months in the fridge, which is amazing. And you can use it for anything from like making a kumquat soda, delicious, to a cocktail, to spooning over ice cream. It's really versatile and so delicious. You're gonna love this. My kumquats are beautiful and translucent. Now it's time to use a slotted spoon and remove them. You can transfer them into a bowl or a heat-proof jar. It depends on how you're gonna store this. Gather these guys all up. Look how they catch the light. Once you've transferred all the kumquats, we're gonna continue simmering this syrup until it thickens up and becomes a beautiful like maple syrup consistency. I don't wanna overcook the kumquats, which is why they're already out and delicious. I tested one already. But the syrup needs to really reduce more of that water and just concentrate its flavor. So this has only been bubbling away for like 10 minutes, but the stove is very powerful, so the consistency is right, and we're gonna transfer this over. But see, that's like a beautiful, like a nice thicker syrup. And you can see the back, look how glossy that is. Now we're gonna pour the syrup all over the kumquats. Nice. Chock full of vanilla beans. This looks incredible, and I just had the best idea ever. This might have to be a recipe, and if you know, you know. A kumquat galactoburico. Oh my gosh. This delicious syrup needs to cool, so let it come to room temperature, then chill in the refrigerator until it is nice and cold. When that happens, it's time to make your amazing flan. But we'll be back with the magic of editing. Doing a take back, as soon as your syrup is basically just slightly warm and not scalding hot, you can go on to the next step. So preheat your oven to 325. And now in a small pan, I'm adding 2/3 of a cup of granulated sugar. That's 133 grams. So basically we're gonna make an amazing caramel with sugar, a little bit of water, and some of that kumquat syrup. So I want 1/4 cup of this syrup, and I have to tell you, the camera does not do it justice. It is speckled throughout with vanilla and so gorgeous. Pour this precious syrup over your sugar. And to finish this off, we need about 2 tablespoons of plain old water. So drizzle that over the sugar. My scale is done. Right now, I'm gonna gently just work this together a little bit. So I have kind of like a pool of liquid on one side. I'm just moving that over. You really don't want to disturb the sugar. When I was on my book tour, I had so many really interesting questions from people who came to say hi, and one of them was about caramel. This kid asked, like, what am I doing wrong for caramel? And I was like, well, number one, Do not use a nonstick pan. That's like the worst thing you can do is like, it just makes your caramel seize up. For some reason, use a plain old metal pan. The other thing is just to not disturb it. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of this syrup that kind of landed on one side and pour it over a dry spot I see. Now I'm taking this over medium-high heat. It's gonna cook for maybe 8 minutes, maybe a little bit less or a little bit more. Do not stir it. That's the other thing. If you stir your caramel, it's kind of game over. So just pop it on heat, let it bubble away, then we're gonna pour it into our pan. While that's heating up, grab an 8-inch pan, no prep needed. You just wanna have it at the ready. So your caramel is done when it's a beautiful amber color. And one of the main concerns people have is with like little hot spots. When we have a hot spot, you'll give the pan a little bit of a swirl. So take it off heat, just swirl it and place it down. But you can also help yourself with an old pastry brush, not your favorite, and some water, and just brush the side of that pan down if there's any sugar hanging around. That way it won't burn. And here I have one mound of sugar in the middle. I'm just gonna zhuzh it up a little bit, just a little bit of a tilt to help break it up. But I honestly haven't had caramel seize or crystallize in so long. All right, so right now it's really close. I'm almost about to take it off heat. Now we're gonna pour this into the pan while it's nice and hot, so you can't wait. It has to go right in, and have a spatula ready just to get all that sugar out. The last thing you have to do is just swirl the caramel towards the edge. Just be careful of your fingers because the pan gets hot really quickly. Set it aside. While we make the filling, it'll chill so quick, but if you wanna have it chill even faster so the caramel sets, just pop it onto like a nice stainless steel surface. Look at this caramel, it's so fun to play with. See, it's already hard, but if I grab a little bit off, that's how you make all sorts of fun caramel decorations. This is like the hair, because the caramel is so cold, it pulls into a filament. Now it's time to grab a big bowl, a whisk, and your flan ingredients. The custard itself just stirs together and it's beyond easy. Yeah. Into that big bowl, I'm adding 5 whole eggs, large please. You can definitely crack them into a separate bowl, one at a time, and check for shells. But today, I'm taking my chances. Now we're adding a 12-ounce can of evaporated milk. In you go. You're gonna whisk this whole thing together, but you're not gonna whisk like crazy. You're gonna gently whisk. You don't wanna work a ton of air into this because if you do, those air bubbles will change the consistency and your flan won't be like as silky, smooth, and amazing as it could be otherwise. We're also adding a 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk. This is one of my favorite things to eat by the spoonful. Look how thick and beautiful that is. And by the way, if you like this video, go ahead and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I upload videos twice a week at least, so there's always a new recipe on the horizon for you. You wanna have some hot water for this flan to bake in. It's gonna regulate the temperature and let it bake perfectly even without burning at the edge. All right, 2 teaspoons of vanilla, that was 2, and half a teaspoon of almond extract. I'm also adding in 1/8 of a teaspoon or a pinch of salt. I'm gonna stir this together with my spatula and just let that sweetened condensed milk incorporate. And then I'll break the whisk out for the eggs. I'm just gonna mix until I see the egg streaks disappear, and then I know I'm ready. I'm gonna give it just a little bit of mix. Just a little bit of a mix. Silky smooth, no streaks of egg white. Right now you wanna grab a big roasting dish. Although I will say, I have a mega roasting dish, and it's so big and so thick that it increases the bake times by like 20 minutes or so. So let's grab a normal roasting dish. We're gonna plop our cake pan in here, and once the water comes to a boil, add that in as well. Ah. For some reason, I'm the only person in the house that loves the sound of that kettle. You can let me know if you like it too. It's a train whistle. Pour your flan right inside. You hear that cracking? That's the caramel. And now we're gonna pour our hot water. We want about an inch surrounding the pan. Just don't get it in the pan. That cracking sound is the caramel. Again, cracking as the temperature changes. There we go. We're gonna bake our flan for 50 to 55 minutes at 325, just until the center has a nice jiggle. Then it's time to chill. This just came out of the oven after 50 minutes, and I want you to see the jiggle it has. There we go. And you can see it's moving back and forth. It has nice movement, but it's set in the middle. I can even touch it and I can tell that it's set in the middle. This is gonna cool down to get close to room temperature, and then we'll remove it from the water bath and pop it into the fridge for at least 2 hours, all the way to overnight. Once it's chilled, it's time for all the fun stuff. My flan's been chilling, so now it's time to release it into the world. So try and maintain pressure on the side of the pan so that it doesn't gouge into your flan. So to encourage the release and melt the caramel on the bottom, that delicious caramel, add hot water into your pan. We're gonna dip our flan in right now. You hear that? That was the sound of the caramel cracking again. So I know there's some solid unmelted caramel here. And my goal, oh, look at this. Come over here, come take a look. Look, can you see that? It's floating free. That's cool. Okay, now it's ready to release. Grab a cake plate with a lip. If it's flat, all the caramel is gonna go all over the place. I learned this the hard way. Now for the exciting part. Invert your cake plate. Little magic. Oh my gosh, gorgeous. That's a beautiful finish. Look at all the specks of vanilla you can see floating on top. You'll see all this caramel on the bottom. Pop this back into the hot water. Just let the caramel melt. You'll notice the caramel starts to dissolve, and then we can just pour that on top and have that be part of our extravagant serving. Now for the fun part. In the recipe, I call for a quarter cup of these translucent, beautiful pieces of candied kumquat, but you can actually add as much as you want. You can serve extra candied kumquat with every serving. You can add this onto ice cream. You can add it into cocktails, into sodas. The rest can get saved for later. So many delicious possibilities. You can let me know in the comments what you'd be adding these into. Oh my gosh, you take a bite and it melts in your mouth. These candied kumquats have such a wonderful, complex, sweet, citrus, slightly bitter flavor, and everything is working together. Even the caramel has those notes from the kumquats and the vanilla. It's just a must-make recipe. I hope you get a chance to make this recipe, so grab a copy of the book. And if you like this video, check out my book playlist.